Just gonna do it. Tom Keegan,
Here.
George Sirenides,
Here.
Dean Roberts,
Present.
Manny Langella,
Here.
George Theodoris,
Here.
John Kides.
Here.
I think we're all here, right? That's it. So, approval of the July 8th minutes. A motion, Tom,
Yep, I'll move that.
second. All in favor? Aye, opposed, abstentions? Okay. Any public participation? Is there anyone, there shouldn't be, other than the folks here, right?
Well,
Jeff,
we have two attendees. Clyde-
outside of the folks, outside of the three gentlemen that are here, Ray,
Correct,
Jerry, okay.
correct. We have Clyde and Paul. So if they want to speak, they can use the virtual hand raise and I can allow them to talk.
Okay.
I'm not sure if any of those are supposed to be panelists. Do they sound familiar?
They are not panelists, no.
No, I believe one is Clyde Ripka's, and I'm not sure who the other one is.
Yeah,
Clyde Ripka, yeah, and then I have Paul. No last
Okay.
name.
and so neither raised their hands, okay.
I don't see it, no.
All right, so thank you all. As you can see, we have quite a few other common council members here. They were invited because we think that this is an issue that we all need to hear at one time. The proposal from the Seaport Association. And so you're the only item on the agenda. So gentlemen, Jerry, I'm just trying to say everyone's name, Mike, and who's the other general? I can't see.
Ray.
And Ray, I'm sorry, Ray, there you are. So we're gonna go ahead with the presentation. Do I need to read this first? Do that?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking, I guess I'll read the item. So the only item on the agenda is to authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rowland, enter an agreement with the Norwalk Seaport Association for the use of calf pasture Shady Beach for a Seaport Holiday Light Show to be held Thursday, November 26, 2020 through Thursday, December 31, 2020, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. daily. Setup date to be determined, vehicular traffic only. So we thought it was necessary to have you all here to give a presentation on this. And so who would like, Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So I'm going to let them go through their presentation first, and just pardon me if there's any technical difficulties. Let me see if I can share my screen. And I believe the first thing is a video of an exhibit that was at another location. So let me see if I can grab that real fast. All right, can you see it now?
No,
No?
no.
It's playing on my screen. Jeff, can you assist me with this?
Did you share your
Are
screen
you,
there?
did you click the share button, Nick?
I did.
Did you pick the right screen? Do you have multiple screens?
No, that's what I was saying. I'm on my iPad.
Oh, you're in your iPad.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if,
Hang on.
Mike, can you share it on your end and see if it'll come off of your desktop?
Do you have that right there, Jer?
I have it. I mean, I quite frankly technically don't know what to do, but I can.
If you walk us through it, we can probably play it on his. I don't have it exactly right here.
Nick, is it something that you can email me and I can try sharing my screen?
Yeah. Let me get to my email real fast.
It's the same email we sent everybody already, but let's see. Where do you want us to send it?
I just sent it again.
Okay.
Everyone.
We sent it to everybody?
I just did 5 minutes ago.
I don't think I'm on that, Nick, so you're gonna have to forward that to me.
Yep,
Okay, what's the email?
hold on.
No list
Hold on.
with the drop box. Yeah.
All right, Delane, it's on its way.
Thank you.
Now, how do I stop the Christmas music? Delane, let me know when you got it.
I will.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Someone should hit play, I guess.
I think whoever shared the screen, yep.
There we go.
So before we do that, I'd like I'm sure that everybody knows who you are from the Seaport Association, but if you can give us a quick overview of what it is you're proposing before we watch this.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Yeah, I'm Jerry Time of Business Association. Essentially, it's a
Can't hear you much.
Turn.
It's very distant.
Better?
Can you hear,
Little bit.
darling?
Okay, we call it the Christmas Light Spectacular, and it's a stagnant show that's a drive-through. It's approximately 1.2 miles long, which is the route around Shady Cap Pasture and Shady Beach. I've enclosed in the package a map that shows the route it would take. Those of you that may not have seen it, we essentially begin the event right behind the main golf course on the Cap Pasture Beach Road, and would circle around the outer loop of Cap Pasture Beach, eventually go through and past Clyde's business and past the the bathrooms, begin to exit the beach, but then you would bear to the right and go through Shady Beach, loop around the trees, come back out, and then you would exit at the exit of Shady Beach, which faces Taylor Farm. It's done by, we have a number of companies that we're in contact with. They haven't chosen which to be yet. For these professional companies that do these for amusement parks and for other towns and cities. It's a display that's you only view it via your car. You travel through this, it would take maybe 15 to 20 minutes to travel through this.
I don't know if anybody's having a problem, but the audio sounds like it's in a tunnel.
Oh,
It's
he has
difficult
to,
to hear.
he has to mute and then Jerry has to unmute.
Okay, so just play the video and we can go on. I don't want him to have to repeat that. Someone hit play? Who's hitting play?
And if you could also hide the Dropbox thing, there's an X in the right-hand corner so we can see the full video. That would be good too.
Jeff, whose screen is being shared?
It looks like Ray Cook.
Ray, can you X out that blue box and make the hit play on the video?
Also maximize the video so it's full screen.
Delene, did you get the presentation yet?
I did, but he started sharing his screen, so wasn't sure what I should do with that. You want me to try it?
Yes,
Please.
please.
Okay,
Jeff,
give
can
me
you
a second.
disconnect Ray's and have
Give me a
green
second.
flamers?
Yeah, hang on. Okay, Diane, you should be able to start sharing.
Let me grab the email. Give me a second.
Make sure you share the sound as well. Darlene, are you able to share the screen?
Trying to see which,
There you go.
so is it this one, the one?
Why don't we start with the ink maps so they can just go over the layout for CAF before they get to the presentation?
Thank
Okay,
you.
that's, this is Jared. You can see the road that we're gonna take.
He has to fix his audio.
The audio
Not
is
here.
terrible. It's an echo.
Is that better?
No.
Is that better?
On mute. So Mike, really, he had to take his off mute, put his on mute, and Jerry needs to take his off mute so he can hear his actual computer.
Yeah, his voice is coming through Mike's computer, not Jerry's.
You want me to be a mute or unmute?
Unmute. All right, now talk.
Will that be better?
Yes, and Mike, mute yours.
Mike, mute yours, please.
Yep.
There you
Maybe
go.
Mike, you should just stand with me, but,
Got it.
okay, I will begin. As you can see from the map, as I said before, we would start approximately behind the mini golf course en route. Would be around the perimeter of Calf Pasture Beach. And on the exit side, we would go by Clyde's restaurant, by the bathhouses, and then exit normally as you would from the park, but then you would bear right and go into Shady Beach, loop around the back section of the beach, and then you would, excuse me, then you would exit facing Taylor Farm. The intent is to direct all the traffic up Calf Pasture Beach Road if possible. That is the route. It's just over 1.1, 1.2 miles, which is appropriate for the various companies that we're doing business with, or thinking of doing business with, in terms of the shows that they put together. Would you like me to just keep going until somebody has a question?
Yes.
Okay, good. I put a Q&A together, and I'll kind of go through that right now. Again, as we said before, it's from Thanksgiving through New Year's Eve. We'd run Wednesday through Sunday, about 5:30 to 10:30, we believe, are the appropriate hours. Again, we'll be through Calf Pasture and Shady Beach. We propose charging $25 per carload. That would be a car, SUV, et cetera, pickup trucks. We would not allow passengers in the back of pickup trucks to go into the beach. We feel it might be unsafe. I think it's also illegal. Our intent is to sell virtually all the tickets online to avoid any kind of backup or confusion as people enter. We would, of course, always have an ability to collect money there, but it would be contactless. And we would do everything we can to get people to sell tickets in advance. We don't know whether or not we would be allowed buses. Buses would be allowed. It's really conditioned upon the displays and the size. It would be nice to have buses. School groups can get together, kids can get together. We can get seniors from homes to come out and do it. It'd be kind of a fun thing to do, but again, it's physical whether or not we can do it or not. We believe it'll be about a 15 to 18 minute drive-through the entire event. Obviously, we have to talk about keeping people moving through it so they don't stop for too long. Again, we would not allow any walk-ins or walk-throughs for obvious safety reasons. We're expecting, excuse me, based on research and speaking with other people, We're thinking weekdays, we do about 250 cars and maybe 450 cars on weekends. In terms of how many cars would be in the park at one time, you could have up to 140 cars at one time in the park. Unlikely, but you could have that many given appropriate spacing. There's adequate power on site through existing telephone poles and power lines. We would have a series of drops as we do for the festival. As you know, we've been doing that for 42 years. So unfortunately, we didn't get to 43 this year, but we have all the equipment in place. We own all the equipment. We've done this before, working with the taxing districts, power companies, so we know exactly how to power this up. The advantage, of course, in day and age is everything's LED, so the draw on the power is not significant. In terms of staffing, as you know, we have a tremendous network of volunteers that work with us both at the festival and on the island and our other events, so we don't anticipate any problem getting volunteers. We have volunteers at various aspects from starting, of course, collecting tickets and collecting money. Then we would have volunteers scattered throughout the various points of the event to be sure that people keep moving and then nobody gets out of the cars. And we would just have rovers. We would probably have one or two golf carts or similar type vehicles so we can keep an eye on what's going on. We'd probably have a command trailer just for people to kind of warm up and get some hot chocolate and be placed to run the operation. There would always be at least one event manager on site before, after, and during the event. It would be somebody that understands the event, understands the operations, has the scheduling, has contact with the various people that we need to speak with during the event. But again, volunteers would be our primary source of labor. In addition to that, we would, of course, do a clean sweep of the place together. I'd like to say we would do it every night. We would most likely do it the next morning, just in case somebody, tossed a Pepsi can out or something like that. We do a quick walkthrough. I don't think it would be smart, safe, or timely to do it at 11 o'clock at night. So we'd probably come back the next morning with our volunteer crew and just make sure that there's no debris or any garbage left in the area. Now, hopefully that would not happen, but we all know it does occasionally. We think it'll take us about 10 days to set up. Normally they say 5 to 6, but given it's our first time, we're allowing 10. Breakdown is about 5 or 6 days also. The breakdown and setup is a coordination with the event coordinator, the event supplier, I should say, would have 1 or 2 representatives, maybe 3, and then the rest would be standard labor supplied by us and our volunteers. Of course, we would have all necessary building, electrical, and code enforcement permits in place. Will the beach be open during daytime and fully accessible? The answer to that is absolutely yes. There's no reason to close the beach down. There may be a trailer parked in a parking space or something like that. But other than that, we do not anticipate, nor do we plan, do we have any interest in closing the beach at any time except, not closing, but restricting access, of course, during the paid hours. But again, during the lunchtime, people can still go down at lunch, and we would respect whatever the hours are, standard hours are for the beach otherwise. Other locations, we've thought of a couple other spots in Norwalk. Vets Park was one that first came to mind. In fact, we met with Nick there about a month ago to talk about the event. It's just that Veterans Park is just not big enough. You just don't have a long enough run to make it worthwhile for anybody to do that. And it wouldn't be a good show for the people. There was some consideration for some other events outside of Norwalk, but of course, Norwalk is our home and that's where we want to be. In terms of the cost, obviously we would bear all the costs. We'll be looking for sponsorship. We'll be selling tickets. It'll be the initial investment will be a significant 6-figure number. The Board of Trustees has given us the okay to pursue this. Obviously, any budgets and financial final financial disbursements, contracts, or decisions would be approved by our board. But it's a significant investment. As with the festival, as you know, before we open up the festival, we've got $250,000 invested in the event. So we are prepared to do that and have the resources. Excuse me again, the resources to do that. Regarding who will supply the displays, we are in discussion with 3 different companies, so we're not quite sure yet who is going to be available and who's going to do it. Benefit, of course, the Seaport will benefit from it financially, but I think it's a great benefit for the city of Norwalk. and the residents in the city of Norwalk. There's nothing like this in this area. There's one, Goodwill does one up in New Haven. There's a few over in I think over on the York side, some as you go further north, but really nothing in the immediate area, in the immediate Fairfield County area that does this. You know, like I said, well over 1 million people in this area. So I think it would be a tremendous event for of course, our community and of course for the, the entire area. The Seaport eventual plan on this is, of course, subject to approval by the city and you all is posed, of course, it's a perfect, you know, if there's such a thing as a perfect thing for COVID, excuse the expression. I mean, this is it. You drive around in your car with your family and your friends and you never get out. There's no exchange with strangers or other people. But our plan would be at some point to expand this because we've seen examples in other parts of the country. We've spoken with other people. And you essentially create a Christmas holiday village. You know, you've got some arts and crafts and you've got some food and you got some entertainment. And of course you got to have Santa for pictures with the kids, but a real destination, a real go-to place would be, this would be, and of course it would all be in the city of Norwalk to get people in there, utilizing the existing parking and whatnot. But of course we know this year that's not going to happen, but this is the first, we hope, of many years of doing this and growing it over the years. What do we need from the city of Norwalk? I've said this in every email I've sent, and I've said it to Nick, and we've said it to other people who've had this discussion. We fully recognize and acknowledge this is a last-minute request. You know, we've been doing the festival for 40 plus years, as you know, but we still start 10 months in advance in planning it. Normally, an event like this would be started in January, February, or the December before. But this came to us in late June. We started thinking about it. And this is where we are today, and we can't do anything about the timeline. All we can do is try to accelerate it and ask for your cooperation in getting this approved. Quite frankly, what we need to do is, and I know you all move it at the appropriate pace and representing the city and the constituents, but what we need to do is really have a decision this evening so we can get it to full council. If we're not able to go to full council by the 22nd, as I look at my calendar, I mean, the window would close. And again, this is not because of anything the city did or did not do. We recognize that, but I also think it's important that you understand that we are under a timeline in terms of making a decision. People have to design, construct, build, purchase displays. And as you can imagine, this isn't something that happens overnight. I just think it's a great idea for the city. I'm not going to pretend it's not good for us because we know it is, and we need to raise the money at Seaport. But it'd just be a tremendous event for the city of Norwalk, and I think it would be a real plus for us to be able to do this. That's pretty much everything that I had in my little Q&A that I created for myself and you all, and I'm more than happy to entertain questions or try to answer anything that may have been missed in my presentation.
So Jerry, and then we can also do the video. I do appreciate everybody's time. I think this is a great option for Norwalk. I think this would be very, as I said, very COVID friendly. When I kind of came across this, it was a little late in the season. As I said, we understand it's a rush on our part, but I think that this would bring a lot of people to Norwalk and be very positive.
Yeah, the video is not on.
Can we get the video?
Which one's the video?
The Seaport, the display, is that it?
Is this it?
Or which one is it, Mike or Jerry?
Jerry, if you could unmute yourself.
It was in the Dropbox.
Which one is the video? You know?
It was in the Dropbox, which was lower in the presentation that we sent.
Does it say Seaport Holiday Light Show Display? Is that the video?
No, that's a stagnant display of pictures of what they might look like. It's not the actual video.
Delene, scroll down and see if there's a link to the Dropbox in the email.
Yeah, there is.
That's it then.
That's it.
All right, hold on. Give me
Thank
one
you very
sec.
much.
Do you see it, Delene?
Yep, give me one sec. Jeff, the share isn't lit up.
So
Oh, wait, hold on.
Should be.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look at the 5 and 10. It's glistening once again with candy canes and silver lanes aglow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store. But the prettiest sight to see is the holly that will be on your own front door. A pair of hop-along boots and a pistol that shoots is the wish of Barney and Ben. Dolls that'll talk and will go for a walk is the hope of Janice and Jen. And Mom and Dad can hardly wait for school to start again. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. There's a tree in the Grand Hotel, one in the park as well. It's the sturdy kind that doesn't mind the snow. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Soon the bells will start, and the thing that'll make them ring is the carol that you sing right within your heart. Beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Toys in every store. But the prettiest sight to see is the holly that will be on your own front door. Sure, it's Christmas once more.
Okay. Thanks, Delene.
Yeah, may I make one more comment, please?
I'm sorry?
May I make another comment?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want you to know that's one of the promotional videos put together by a company that we're speaking with. And I just don't want to mislead you to think that every one of those items is going to be on our show.
I teared up a little bit.
It's like, you know, you see the Mercedes in the commercial. It's got every bell and whistle that you could possibly imagine. It will be an impressive show. It will be an entertaining show, but we probably would not have every one of those aspects because we'd get into the 7 figures probably, something like that. So thank you for that.
The other thing is that everybody will tune their radio to a certain channel and there'll be music and narration as it goes through. So, you know, they'll know exactly what's going on, and we can give special directions on that tape as well. So it's pretty neat, and using a lot of the latest technology.
So thank you for that. So we want to open it up. Does anyone have any questions that they want to start with? Raise your hands. So I see Kadeem. I think Tom after that. Livingston and Keegan.
I got a couple questions, but I'm pretty sure they're going to get asked. So I just got one question. It was stated before that there won't be any walkers. What are we doing to patrol people stopping, getting out their cars and taking pictures?
Well, what we will do is we will have, as I said, volunteers stationed as security people throughout the entire event. And, you know, obviously we're not going to, you know, wrestle somebody to the ground, but we will prevent the best we can anybody getting out of the car. It's just, again, it's too dangerous, and obviously would stop the entire event. So we will do that.
Okay.
And you know, the other thing too is we you know, again, sir, we're in the formulation stages also. But I see as every person comes through the gate, obviously we're going to collect some kind of a pass or ticket from them to prove, of course, that they paid to get in. You know, you're maybe, you know, giving candy canes to the kids in the back seat, and a little bit of an informational brochure for each one of the people going through, which will have that recommendation or warning, you know, kind of informative so they can enjoy the event and what to look for at various aspects of the event, but also reminding them that it's not safe to get out of your car.
One other thing is on the recording, when they get in and they tune their radio to a certain channel, we will explain, you know, please don't get out of the car, so on and so forth. There'll be some basic directions on the actual recording that they listen to in their car.
Thank you.
I think Tom Keegan.
Hi there. I have a couple of questions. One has to do with the electricity usage. Will the Seaport pay Eversource for the electricity being used?
Well, somebody has to pay the bill, sir, and we'd like to get somebody else to pay for it, but we will honor that and respect it. Of course, we will pay for it, not to be funny, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's very, very low usage. The good news with LED, very low usage. We're surprised by what the projected costs are, actually.
Okay. This is for Nick, I believe. Nick, have we thought about compensation for the city for this?
Yes, so we have our park usage rates for usage of the park. Again, this is going to be 5 days a week, 5 hours for 6 weeks. So it's a significant use of the property. When we calculate the total usage, it's about $15,000 as far as park usage rates. But I want to touch upon the point you just brought up about electrical. So there are drops along the entrance of the park and along the Gardella property, and then also around to where Ripka's Cafe is and to where the plaza is. Once you get into Shady Beach area, there are decorative light poles there that were engineered and designed for only a certain amount of usage. You cannot run drops off of those poles. They were designed with a certain amount of usage, like I said. So whatever drops you're going to add or whatever electrical panels you're going to add, you're going to have to do that for the whole entire Shady Beach segment of the property. So sure. It's going to have a significant cost, and I just want you to be aware of that.
Yes.
I have just one more question.
Hold on.
Yep.
Okay.
My last question has to do with parking. Specifically, how will the parking on the southernmost section of Calf Pasture be affected? That would be the parking that diagonally faces the water and the islands.
Well, we are going to do everything we can to minimize any effect on that parking. You know, that's a popular spot in the daytime, 12 months a year. I happen to be a regular user at lunchtime myself, so I'm very familiar with that. And we're going to do whatever we can to not touch it, to not affect it. And if we have to affect it, well, that's something we have to review with the city to see what the tolerance is. You know, okay, would it be acceptable to take 7 spots out of the 42 or whatever the issue may be? The intent, obviously, sir, is not to block all that parking because that's just too important there.
Thank you.
Tom Livingston, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank
Then
you.
George.
Thank you. Just a couple questions here. And I think you answered the first one, but I want to be clear. Will there be any music or any other public announcement system in play there? Or is it all done by the car radio?
No, there will be no PA system at all. Everything will be via car. It'll be via everybody's car radio only. There'll be no projected sound at all.
Okay. Well, that helps. Thank you. The other question was, we're a very diverse community. How will you determine the actual displays that you put up? And will there be a lot of advertising in that? Because I saw in that, I know that was just a sample video, but it was like your logo here, that type of thing. How will
Yeah,
you-
well, the displays, of course, are something that we would select with the company that we are doing business with. We could talk about, you know, if the city would like to have some representation, to have input in terms of displays, we have no objection to that. We find nothing that we would do or even consider to do to be objectionable to any party. But we have no problem with, you know, allowing some level of participation by the city. So that shouldn't be an issue. Will there be logos and displays for sponsorship? Absolutely, yes, there will be. Because that's how we're going to help pay for this. In other words, we'll go by a section, whatever, some random section. If it's, I don't know, got a bunch of candy canes and ice sculptures and things like that, and it may be sponsored by the Crystal Ice Company of Norwalk. And if you go by something else, it may be sponsored by one of our other enterprises. So there will be some sponsorship signage throughout the event, tastefully, of course, but you know, and even to some level, to some extent, somewhat standardization. I'm not going to say they're all going to be a white sign with blue letters, but some kind of standardization where it's recognizable as you pass through.
Thank you.
One other thing I wanted to make, just a comment on the electrical. We figure that this rig would be 50 kilowatts per night. So if we used what we use when we pay for the Oyster Festival power, if we used those rates as an example, it's about $700 for the month in the way of power. It's very, very small because it's all LED and, you know, very, very small usage. It's not like the old days. 50 kilowatts is really very small. And we want this to be first class. The whole thing will be first class. We don't, you know, we've done the Oyster Festival for years. The event business is my world. We're going to make this really great.
George? George?
Mr. Chair, yes, thank you. I'm a little concerned about the traffic. We're talking about a pretty long period of time, 6 weeks. And it's an area that already sees too many events during the summer. The residents there are a little happy right now with the lack of all the summer events not being there. But we're also talking about roughly 5 hours a day, roughly during the week, 50 cars per hour, if you break it down, 90 on the weekends. That's a lot of extra traffic. Is this something that might warrant a traffic study? Are there going to be police officers there stationed just to make sure like the residents at Marvin don't have a problem getting in and out of their streets? It's going to be pretty disruptive to that area over there.
Well, in terms of a study, I can't say we would or can do that, George. I'd be honest with you, I'm not quite sure. It's really based on volume and time. As you said, we're open for approximately 5 hours every evening. I don't know that the people over on First, Second Street would be disrupted. It's sort of a good news, bad things. If the lines are that long, my God, we're successful. I don't foresee that. You know, given the run from the entrance at the tennis courts down there, there's a lot of cars that could be essentially lined up, for lack of a better word, in terms of traffic, and it's really not going to disrupt the other neighbors. There are, of course, a few houses that are actually on Cat Pasture Beach Road, which we are aware of. In terms of police, there will be some police. We haven't figured out that exactly how that's going to work yet. We had a preliminary meeting with Deputy Chief Walsh and Deputy Chief Susan Zecca a few weeks back, and they were going to get back to us, and we were going to get back together, and that's not happened yet. We thought the important thing was to get through this phase and get it approved, And then we'll begin to sit down and figure out what's appropriate. So I can't really respond to in terms of what the role of the police will be. As I said, we will have our own essentially traffic monitors out, with radios to be sure that things move. Parking is not going to be an issue as people can't walk in. So everybody that's there will be in their car. So we're not going to experience some of the problems that you all experience during the summertime, which I'm very aware of.
Now, has anyone spoken to Clyde in regards to this event, since he
Yes,
does do tree sales and wreath sales during the winter?
Yeah, I had a long conversation with Clyde Ripka today. As you know or may not know, we've got a very long relationship with Clyde. Clyde does all of our catering events. He just did a wedding with us last weekend on Sheffield Island. He does our clam bake. So he's done private events for us. So we have a very good working relationship with him. We are aware that he does some events between Thanksgiving and Christmas. He does have the tree sales, and he has a couple nights where they do the moonlight and the s'mores nights and things like that. We believe without a doubt that we could work something out with Clyde so it doesn't hurt his business and it doesn't necessarily affect our event. We both agreed that we could do that. We're not quite sure how we're going to do it. Obviously, we would not be able to allow free passage to anybody that came through and said, by the way, I'm going to go buy a hot dog at Clyde's. That's not going to actually work for us. But we thought we could do something with coupons or discounts and things like that. So he's confident that we could work this out. I'm very confident we can work this out, given we've had a business relationship all these years.
Thank you.
David, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry, George, are you done?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay.
Darlene, I see a couple of people with virtually hands raised, Dominique Johnson and Barbara Smith as well.
Okay, so I'll get to David. Did you have?
Yeah, I did. I have a couple of questions. One is more of a question for Nick. That stretch of pathway that goes up through Shady Beach that twists around and comes back down, is that graded to be able to handle this type of volume of car traffic and also any heavy equipment traffic for the setup of this thing? Because looking at that video that you just showed me, some of those structures are, in order to incorporate all of that LED, are fairly substantial. So is that graded to be able to handle that kind of traffic in that area?
I'm not sure about the amount of capacity on there, but it is rated for vehicles. We do drive our work vehicles on there to pick up the garbage and those types of things. But as far as the amount of traffic on there for a sustained period of time, I'm not sure. I'll have to check with DPW to ensure that.
Yeah, I would be concerned about damage over long-term use, especially at that time of the year. If we have any significant weather during that time of the year that causes any buckling in that.
Well, not only that, I would also mention that that pathway is inside of our park. Typically, we wouldn't plow that in the winter if there's a snowfall. And again, the whole entire site is a low priority compared to the roads and to the school properties, which DPW and Parks maintains first before it gets to any of the park properties. So I just want to make that clear that in the event of a snowstorm or snowfall, that will be the last priority.
We are aware of that, and we would have backup plans in place with private contractors, subject to your approval, that could come in and give us a hand in cleaning up the road.
And I'm not even sure if that'll be possible because we have union employees that might be considered their work. So that'll be a little bit tricky to work through.
Okay.
Well, another question, which is basically looking at that video and then your source material that you sent, there's a lot of infrastructure that goes into those types of units that you put the LED on. You also indicate an area of potential projection mapping on trees and that. So what we're talking about at that point are a lot of metal structure or wooden structure that has got to be supported, mounted correctly, and all of the wiring that goes into this. Though it's LED, there's still a significant amount of wiring. You're going to have a lot of cable running through the park, through various areas of the park. And so in order to mitigate any potential issues with public during the day with all of that cable. What's being done? What you mentioned right now that you're talking to 3 different companies, but you don't have one single company online who can sit down and say, we function X, Y, and Z. We use our control system this way, we use that. So it makes me hesitant right now in listening to you because I don't see any of that potential infrastructure being discussed right now. And I think that's important for something that's going to sit for 6 weeks and have the general public wandering through it when in the off hours.
Okay, so we have a lot of this infrastructure. I don't know if you know, we do at the Oyster Fest. We bring in all the drops, we have all the panels, we have all the power distribution. Most of the stuff at Shady, by the way, just so you know, would be video bit mapping and things in the trees. There wouldn't really be much structure over there because we would use those trees. There's 71 trees over there. We would use those as places to show video bit mapping and stuff, which is, you know, way less structure. But these people that do this, they do Hershey Park, they do the one in Vegas, they do 2 in Dallas. This is, you know, this is very, the infrastructure is there. And we've gone through some site surveys and everything as well with them and have a pretty good idea of what's required.
What kind of crew support do you anticipate for the actual run of the show? So each night, how many of their crew of this company do you need on site for troubleshooting and issues within it? And then what are you doing for security during the day when you're in downtime?
So there really wouldn't be daily security at this point. We're not sure, but we would have one technician at all times, plus people like myself and other people that do this kind of events and event team members there every night. So there would be lots of people there that know how to use this.
One last question. Where would you start this? Would you start this immediately at the front gate of Calf Pasture, or would you push it back further in order to allow potentially traffic flow going in and out of, say, Ripka's or the parking area?
We would, while in operation or at any time, we anticipate the actual displays, if you, for lack of a better description, that's what they are, displays, would start somewhere right behind the mini golf course in that area, the Gardello's course. There would be some lead up and decorations, whether they be some lights or some fixtures as people begin to enter the park, right past where we would be collecting tickets. We would be used the traditional spot that the city has always used for collecting tickets. That's where it would go.
Okay. All right. So so we had Barbara and then Dominique and then Manny.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman Young. In addition to the traffic concerns that I have for Calf Pasture Beach Road, I'm also concerned about the lighting, you know, the light show itself and how that might affect the residents. Oh, sorry. How that might affect the residents in the area. You know, it's dark by 5 o'clock at that time of year. What can we expect in that respect?
Well, it's going to be pretty difficult, really, for anybody that lives in that immediate area to even see the lights. You have the natural, not the natural, but you have the buffer structure of Cove Marina, which will block most of the lights that's between where we will be displaying them, where the residential area starts over there by Island Beach in that area. It'll be virtually impossible to see it. Virtually impossible. Obviously, there will be some peekaboos, but again, we're talking about December. Of course, every single boat from Cove Marina is up and is in the parking lot, which would provide a very good buffer for lighting.
Thank you.
Dominique?
I wanted to follow up on a couple of things from my colleagues. The first of which is that since this time span covers not just the Christmas holiday, but also Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, as I think it was Council Member Livingston said, we're a very diverse community. I wanted to ensure that there were some commitments on your part, and you're willing to make those commitments to include these cultural celebrations as well.
Without question. Absolutely. It's part of the package.
And
Those
so,
are already in the design.
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I just didn't see anything in the video. Perhaps it was the
Yeah,
quality
it's
of it.
kind of hard to do.
In our
the whole
meetings
thing.
with them, that issue came up.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. And secondly, given that Ripka's does the wreath sale, given that there are folks dining or at least takeout or outdoor dining at Ripka's, I assume the restaurant will be open. How I'm just trying to figure out how you're going to be able to discern like hundreds of people coming to Norwalk for this, and then also saying, wow, there's a great restaurant here, we're selling wreaths, I want to go get a hot chocolate, and we have hundreds of people congregating in a restaurant, which I know might be wonderful for Ripka's, but how is the crowd control going to go such that we have social distancing? I'm assuming there's a benefit to the restaurant for that and to the fundraising for the Marvin, but the downside of that seems during COVID seems very I speculate as to the intelligence of that. Yeah.
Well, I cannot speak for Clyde, but I'll make a general comment. Obviously, he's been running the restaurant all summer during the height of this mess, excuse the expression. So I'm sure he'll be able to deal with it in some manner. I mean, any assistance that we could provide, we would. Whether we're there or not, he could still have 200 people on a Saturday night at one of his, s'mores or marshmallow roasts, which I've been to, or one of his moonlight events, which I've been to also. So there would be people there regardless whether we're there or not. I'm sure Clyde, has figured it out and has done a good job. I've had dinner there many times with my wife.
Right. Respectfully, though, just to counter, this will bring in more people than the usual Ripka s'mores roast, without a doubt. So there's just that added, putting that on him as a business owner. I mean, I haven't had a chance to talk with him, but I know others might have. But do you know what I'm trying to say? That's just to push back a little, that shouldn't all be his responsibility to manage those crowds, but at the same time, there needs to be some accounting of how we're going to manage crowds, given that, as you say, you hope lots of people will come to this.
Right.
Yeah. So
we are perfectly willing. Again, Clyde has been a business partner with us and a friend for years. We're perfectly willing to add additional staff to the system and crowd control, for lack of a better term. In terms of getting his lines in order, or collecting tickets, or we don't cook. That's one thing we don't do, but we could assist him in that. And we all hope, like you said, we want that good problem.
I believe Clyde is on the call as well.
Oh,
Yeah, so he just texted me.
He is, but I would have to promote him for him to be able to speak.
Yeah, Clyde. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I read a text from him? Is that permissible?
Yeah, you can read it. He's on the call, right? He's on this.
I don't think so. He said he was not, and he texted me a message.
He is. He actually has his hands raised, so I can allow him to talk.
Okay, good, great.
Well, let's get through this. I'm not sure if that's so. Dominique, were you done with your questions?
yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
I do know that he gets maybe 30 to 50 people when he does his s'mores events.
Right.
That's
Hearing from him
awesome.
would be helpful too to answer.
Yeah, I think he's on the call. Manny?
Yes, everyone, thank you. So most of my questions were answered. I think my concern really was crowd management, and that was answered with Ms. Johnson's comment as well. So a question. So I think I have more so a comment. I personally think that this is a great idea. I understand that we have concerns around traffic, lighting, COVID, but I mean, if we think about fast forwarding to the holiday season, how many people actually go to Rockefeller Center to see the trees, to see the shops, and all those things probably won't happen. I think this is a good way to get people in the community to take a break from this thing with their families, and if it attracts people and we manage it the right way, which it sounds like we have the buy-in from the stakeholder here. I think that this could be great. I think that this is this is really something that hopefully, like, if a family comes here and you know they have their kids, they're going to go to a restaurant downtown or going to grab some food somewhere. So I mean, I personally am in support of this. I think it's great, and it sounds like you're willing to address any and all of our concerns over here. So
thank you, Manny. So is Ripka on the call? Jeff, does it look like, it may not say his name.
Yes, do you want me?
His hand is raised.
Yep.
So I think we can let him speak.
Okay. Clyde, if you take
Clyde?
a mute, you could speak.
Clyde?
I'm here. I don't see my picture, but you see me?
We see your name.
Clyde.
You can hear you.
You can hear me though, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Because I had a really fabulous backdrop here with my fire going in the background and all that.
Next time.
I was trying to make an impression on my first Zoom meeting. I think, you know, several years ago, some people have spoken to me from City Hall about doing lights and things like that down at the beach. And of course, you know, for 50 years, the beach was never, you know, the concession was never open off season. And what we've done in the last years has been hard, but, you know, I've been there all the time and just trying to promote off season activities. We've done s'mores, we've done full moon rise things and bring music in February and have these guys freezing their fingers off while they're playing for everybody. And everybody, I mean, it's really become a very communal and a great neighborhood thing. So when I heard about this thing, I thought it was just fabulous. I think the lights are fabulous. Obviously, closing down the beach. Well, let's be clear. I don't do a tremendous amount of business between 5:30 and 10:30 on any given night. My big days are Saturday and Sunday doing brunch, and I'm always, you know, primarily working alone. But I do think that this is a good opportunity for people to get down. I think the driving in the cars and seeing the lights is fabulous, and I would love to be able to participate and assist in making this a communal thing. Now, the question I had to Jerry earlier on the phone, we did have a nice discussion, was, you know, I would open up, I'd have some s'more pits, and, you know, we'd serve hot chocolate and hot dogs and whatever else like that during the entire time. But of course, you know, we come into the little snafu of staying in your car. And Jerry suggested that perhaps, you know, right behind the restaurant, there could be some parking where people can get out and come into the restaurant specifically, or sit around the fire and just, you know, kind of make a family event there. That needs to be worked out, but, you know, I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it's a fabulous thing. I've always supported Seaport I've been working with them for more than a dozen years. So, and I think it's really cool that the city of Newark would possibly consider something like this, because Calf Pasture is not just a summer place. And, you know, I've taken to a place where it is a year-round place, and, you know, my business, you know, we don't do a lot of business during the wintertime, but, you know, I'm happy to be there and take care of all the neighbors and the neighborhood and everybody that comes in.
Thank you, Clyde.
The one thing that was brought up earlier about the crowds, I wish I had to have bouncers and crowd control around there in, you know, November, December. I think we have seen during the course of the summertime with the concerts, or I don't call them concerts, they're actually just bands playing under the tent, that the community has taken care of spacing. And I mean, if you saw last Friday night, there were people from swing sets all the way to the seawall into the tent, and everybody was in their own enclaves. And every time they got up, they put their masks on, they come into the cafe. You know, it might seem like, you know, my business is going gangbusters, but we're operating about 40%. And even on these busy nights, people come to hang out and they sit on the lawn and listen to the music, but they're being respectful about everybody else's space, and they're doing the proper things. And I think I'm very, very proud and happy that we did that. I think that, given the COVID situation and the season and the cold, yeah, I think we can maintain crowds that are going on there. Should there be a crowd? I mean, we got to get tough. If anybody's seen me at the cafe, I'm screaming all the time at people with masks and spacing and stuff. And but I think it's a great opportunity for the city. I think it's an opportunity for me to expand a little bit more in the wintertime. And I think we can set a precedent that Norwalk knows how to do it, and Connecticut has known how to do it. And I think it's fabulous.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other comments, questions?
Madam Chairman,
John?
John. Yes, it's
Okay,
me,
John.
John. Just really quick. I mean, I'm just going to make this brief, and lots been said. I think the one thing people are going to need in the dead of winter is this distraction, and I think it's a positive thing. I think I mean you've checked all the boxes. We've got a COVID-friendly event, a drive-through event. So I mean, I know, being the representative of that district, I might hear a few things during that time, but I think you've done a good job with covering all the angles, and with your experience with the Oyster Fest, I have no doubt they can pull off this event as well. So I am in support of this. And thank you. And actually, can I see the video one more time? I'm undecided. Very good presentation.
Nick?
I wanted to ask, Jerry and Mike, you guys are obviously investing a lot into this event and site because you envision it being a long-term event, correct?
That's our plan.
Can you tell me what the long-term plan for this event is? I know you're sort of bounded by COVID restrictions and keeping everyone in the cars and making it a drive-through event only, but what do you envision this being long-term?
Well, we envision is at some point, everybody's going to be able to get real close again. And we all look forward to that day, God willing. But we would see someplace in the parking lot or one of the field areas. I'm kind of winging it a bit here, Nick, but an area where there would be a village. It would be a Christmas village, from Santa to candy canes. There's a Nutcracker themed village that's displayed every year in a little town called Steubenville, Ohio, which is about 35 miles from Pittsburgh. And where, by the way, I happen to go to college, but it's just a magnificent event that gathers people from 150 miles away, and they have a series of nutcrackers on display in the village. I see us doing something like that. I've had discussions with the people that are involved in that back in Ohio, and it's just an amazing event. I see a village like that. I see, Christmas crafters. I see, the high school, junior high school, little kid choirs, singing holiday songs or just doing summer or winter cheer, excuse me. I mean, we're not talking about amusement rides. We're not talking about hawking games. We're talking about a place where a family can go in, walk around after they do their tour. We got to figure logistics, and I understand that, but they go back into this little village. Maybe the village is over by Shady Beach in the huge grass parking area, something like that. And that's our vision down the road, Nick.
Okay, so a couple of things, right? So in regards to possibly having this event this year, it is imperative that the individuals coming to the show remain in their vehicles and this remain a drive-through event this year, okay?
Without
because
question.
of COVID restrictions.
Agree.
In terms of the long-term plan, there are some restrictions down at Calf Pasture Beat that's part of the deed restriction, okay? And I'll read it word for word. Some of this is going to be left up to interpretation, but there is no carousel, merry-go-round, shooting gallery, or other amusement apparatuses or noise-producing devices shall ever be located or allowed or permitted on the property. There's no manufacturing, wholesale, retail, business, or commercial enterprise of any kind shall ever be permitted or allowed or conducted on said premises. So I want to make sure that you're aware before you invest long-term into the site that you realize that you're going to be binded by some of the deed restrictions for that property. Okay, so that's first and foremost. In terms of some of the Q&As that you had on the sheet, I just want to follow through on a couple of them. You mentioned that most of these ticket sales will be done online to limit the interaction between the public and staff. How is that going to work? And then also, if you're not going to go fully online, how do you intend on taking the payment at the site? Will it be cash, or you're looking at cards? How are you planning on doing that?
We would, as you know, of course, our experience with the Oyster Festival, and even more directly with the ferry service, we bring close to 10,000 people, in a good year, close to 10,000 people every year out to the service, to Sheffield Island via our ferry, and approximately 80 to 82%, something like that, of all tickets are sold online. So we have an experience in doing that. We happen to have a number of board members that are actively involved in that business. So we could book all that online without a problem. We're very confident we've done it. We do it for the festival, maybe sell 5,000 to 10,000 tickets for the festival online because it's easier to get in. If we don't want to have to, selfishly, for a financial reason, we don't want to turn away a family that drove down from Waterbury that wants to come in and didn't make a reservation. We would probably try to do absolutely everything contactless. We have scanners, we have iPads, we have all the technical apparatus that anybody would possibly need. We have access to dozens and dozens of units. And so we would be sure that everybody had the message up front. And if they happen to show up and they wanted to buy a ticket, I would just be wrong to deny a family or some kids the opportunity to do that. This may get a little bit into the weeds, but I think it addresses a couple other issues that we should speak to. In terms of keeping the traffic moving for a couple of reasons. Number one, we want to keep the traffic moving so the customers are happy. We want to keep the traffic moving so people are encouraged to keep coming. And we want to keep the traffic moving because the neighbors don't have to see the same car parked in front of their house for 25 minutes. What we are thinking of doing with our volunteers is not randomly, but moving up, if you can imagine, moving from the point at which they would enter the park, moving out towards Marvin School. And given that the traffic will be moving slowly, obviously, or at a standstill, we will begin to actually check people in 15, 18, 20, 25 cars away. So we'll be moving up the line, and there will be Mr. Livingston with his family, and already have his ticket. We'll take his ticket, and we'll give him something, a chip, a wristband, put a sticker on his windshield or something. So as he begins to progress closer to the gate, we don't have to slow down. We don't have to stop him. We could wave to him. We can give the kids and the grandkids give them the candy canes, but we can keep the traffic moving that way. You know, we don't want to have to stop and have an interaction, as much as we love people, a long interaction with everybody. So we think we could check people in 5, 10, 15, 20 cars up the line, which again would keep it moving and again make everybody happy.
All right. So
in general, if I may go back to your point, Nick, I don't think I addressed it, and I really should. We are fully aware, 71 years I lived in this town, and I've run events from the high school to Exchange Club to every other organization I belong to, and I've been in front of this committee many times. And we understand there are restrictions, and the restrictions are the restrictions. The ones that have some interpretation, we'll sit down and discuss. The ones that have no interpretation, we just keep moving on, and we don't do that. And lastly, in terms of the investment that we're going to make, it is our plan, and we think it would be good for us. It would be good for the city to have this concept of village, or whatever you may want to call it at this point in time. But we also recognize that may not be possible down the road. That may not be a big event. But I believe the event itself, the drive-through, the music, the entertainment value for the families would be worth it, again, onto itself. I mean, so we're not saying, gee, we're going to do this because we know we're going to do X next year and make significantly more money or entertain more people. We are going to present this. We have presented this, and we're asking for your approval on the merits of this particular event. If we get a chance to grow it next year, we're going to be back in front of you. We'll probably have more informal meetings because we'll be doing it way in advance. So we do understand that, Nick, and I do appreciate you raising that point.
Let me just add just one more point to it. We talk about restrictions. So right now we're operating under the reopening guidelines phase 2 for COVID, right? Which caps the public outdoor gatherings at 100 people. This is obviously more than that. But again, as we go into winter, as we go into flu season, if there's a spike in the virus, the restrictions may change and it may impact your program. It may impact your program before the event. It may impact it during the event. You are taking a significant risk in signing the contract for this event, and it may be impacted somewhere down the road if there is a spike in the virus. So I want to make sure that you guys are fully aware of that if approved tonight. So that's
we do
one
understand
thing.
that. I don't see where and excuse me, how those how either the current restrictions or even more restrictive restrictions would affect us, given that it's 5 people driving in a car totally isolated. In other words, we're not really having a public gathering. They're just driving down the street.
Okay. And again, I want to reiterate too. So this is an event this year that makes absolutely all the sense in the world as far as being COVID friendly, everyone isolated in their car, completely drive through. But my concern would be long-term, because like I said, and I know you said plans can change down the road, but you're going to spend a significant amount of money in putting those drops, those electrical panels and everything else. And this event is only going to grow larger. And I have concerns about the community as well. The amount of traffic and congestion going into East Norwalk, they get it all summer. And then to hear it over the winter as well, we're surely going to get some calls about that. So I just want to reiterate those concerns that I have as well.
Well, the good news and the bad news is we have an incredibly magnificent facility in Calf Pasture and Shady Beach, and we really want to share it with everyone else. Thanks, Nick.
Yes, thank you. You know, at $25 a car, and it raises the issue of people who either A, can't afford it, and or B, don't have a car, who live in Norwalk. Have you thought about that and how you're going to address that issue? Or are you going to provide some mechanism for people who can't otherwise afford to see something in their own town, how they can see it?
Excuse me. No, we've not actually considered addressing that at this time. In terms of getting people that don't have a car, let's do the easy one first. I mean, that's, excuse me, that's why we'd really like to have some kind of a bus transportation system. And we've talked to a couple of different bus companies about the idea of they would be the focal point, or there would be a pickup place. You know, again, it's a logistical thing, sir, but I believe we might be able to accommodate those people. In terms of the $25, I don't know what we can possibly do about that. Obviously, we have a significant investment. We have to make every chance we can to recover that investment. And $25, I mean, every dollar is important to all of us these days. But for a family, you know, the mom and the dad, or the grandma or uncles or whoever it may be, you know, 4 or 5 in a car, it's a pretty low basis to be.
Any more questions? So Jerry, I want to know how flexible you are, given what Nick has said as well. With the 6 weeks, that time, is that the length of time that you actually need to recoup your money?
Yeah, yes. yes, we do. Yeah, that's about the best we could. I mean, there are many events that start November 1st, and as we know, people seem to rush the holidays this year. I was in Home Depot yesterday, and they're selling Halloween costumes already. So, but that's about the bare that we could probably do and make it work. With, you know, we don't want to go to 7 days a week. We don't really want to do that. We don't want to do that to ourselves. We don't want to do it to neighbors, et cetera. So that's why we figured the Wednesday through Sunday would be the best approach.
And I forget who asked you about, well, you mentioned that this is you're looking to have this happen every year. Are you looking to do this in exchange for the Oyster Festival?
No.
Because the time, so you're looking to hopefully do 2 events.
If we can, yes. We believe we can manage both events, yes.
So Nick, did you have any more concerns?
No, ma'am. I think they were all raised throughout the presentation.
Okay. All right. So I thank you, gentlemen, for your time and for your answering our questions. And let me say, my one concern would be that I know you've answered the questions to the best of your ability, but you haven't selected the contractor yet, and so we don't know what kinds of things will come up when they go to install, or if this gets approved, what that whole process is going to
So-
look like.
Let me answer that one for you. So we've done site surveys with a bunch of these vendors, and they've come out and looked at this. The displays are basically the same, and some of them are made by the same manufacturers. So, we don't really see any issues. We've already measured things and looked at what the site is, and we're pretty familiar with that, and these vendors have looked at it. So we're just ready to kind of move forward with one of them. They're all excellent at what they do. And that's, I think we partnered with good people, and, we're going to run this thing very professionally.
To that point, one step further, ma'am, if I may, to sort of what Tom raised, Mr. Livingston raised before. I mean, there's no issue why we can't, once we begin to put our plan together, to sit with a representative of the group or two representatives of the group and say, this is what we're planning to do. What do you think about it? And I think you'll be very happy with what we're doing. I assure you. And the more eyes on the subject, the better it gets. We all know that.
All right. And so inclement weather, we all know it's winter. It'll be during the winter. So, hopefully there's no huge winter storm, because there won't be any days that we can make up the time is what it is, right? We're just going to have to
Sure.
deal with those issues
Yeah.
as well. Okay. Right. So I think we're at that point. And I'm thinking about it. So, so we have all of our council members here, but only the Recreation and Parks Committee members will be voting on that. That's just to let you all know what this process is.
Of course.
So I think we're going to just do a all in favor of moving this item forward to the council. Raise a hand. Well, I can't see. You have to say aye. We're going to go by aye. Tom?
Aye.
George?
Yes.
Chernides?
Aye. Yes.
George Theodoris?
Yes.
Kadeem Roberts?
Aye.
Manny Langella?
Aye.
John Kites? John? Kites?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, that's everybody. So we will move this forward to the September 22nd council meeting for a vote.
I just
I
want
appreciate your time.
I want to thank you all on behalf of the Seaport for taking us on this sort of special notice, even though it wasn't a special meeting, but we pushed it hard, and you all were incredibly good, and we got some good questions, and we have a lot of good things to go back with. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
And thank you. And I'd like to say thank you to Clyde. As someone whose business is going to be impacted by this, it was helpful to hear your perspective on this whole project. So we appreciate your time too, Clyde.
Thank you.
So if we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Talene. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Jeff.
Bye.
Thanks.
All be safe.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, be safe.
Thank you.